This is FSBN, the most trusted name in fake news. My name is Frankie from Flatbush. It is high. It is far. It is Wednesday, December the 31st in the year of our Lord 2025. And that means it's New Year's Eve. Can you believe it? 2025 is over. Unbelievable. The whole year gone. Goodbye. See ya. That went quickly. And we're in week 18 or game 18 week of the NFL season. So everything winding down. And we had a Wednesday presser for Aaron Glenn, so let's talk about the news right after we turn on the ticker. You know, we got a ticker up here, we got a switcher down here, we got a docket over there. We got all this stuff going on. So what's first on the the agenda, Frankie? Well, we got the media watch. We got a Wednesday presser out of Aaron Glenn. And the media now has switched from one and done mostly to two and through. Dick Chimney has taken the lead, calling the idea to fire Aaron Glenn, quote, ridiculous, which shows you the media knows he's not going anywhere. The real media. The nationals and the casuals can say whatever they want. But once you have a Dick Chimney saying that idea is ridiculous, then he knows Glenn's not going anywhere. So now they're going to focus on two and through. So one and done they couldn't get. Now they're going to go for two and through. So let's just hope we start winning some games so these motherfuckers could get off our case. But in the presser, he had his Wednesday presser. And it was kind of interesting because he did go into the two things they need to improve upon. You know, he was kind of making it sound like improve upon for this game, but obviously it's not going to improve for this game. So he was kind of giving you, in my opinion, sort of like a coded preview of what they're going to do in the offseason. And it's very clear, and it's not surprising. Defense, which is kind of a large category, and then the pass game. So basically, we got our run game on point. We got our special teams on point. Now we just got to fix the entire defense and the passing game. And if we do that, we'll be okay. So there you go. But I think and he mentioned these things 3 times in different contexts. So I think what it tells you is that that's what we're going to spend our money on. We have a lot of money to spend. I think we're going to spend it very, generously to fix the defense. Probably 2 linebackers, 1 defensive tackle, at least 1 edge, and 1 safety. At the very minimum, that's free agency, and then we'll load up in the draft as well. But he's kind of telling you, and then the passing game. So that kind of tells you, okay, we know we got to get the passing game, but that's all about the quarterback. And personally, I think it's going to be Malik Willis for the New York Jetsies because I don't think we're going to be able to get. I think Moore probably goes back to school. Mendoza goes to the Raiders, and then that leaves you with Malik Willis. So I think that's what it is. And then we hope and pray. And if that doesn't work, well, then in 27, we got 3 first-round picks, and we pick one of the guys coming out then. That's just where we are. And they asked him a trick question, of course. What went right this year? Basically asking him to evaluate himself publicly. It's a trick question because it's basically handing you the rope that will be used to hang yourself. Because whatever he says in that regard, it will come back later. Even if they don't use it now, they'll use it in 6 months. You said this 6 months ago, and now you're saying, and now you're doing, now this happened. So they just handed him the rope to be used to hang himself, and he went into the details. See, like me, I would have said, no, we'll do our in-house evaluations, and of course, we'll look at everything, including myself, the head coach, all the coaches. We'll look at everything we did, the process, the players we acquired. We'll look at everything and try to improve where it needs to be improved. Next question. You don't give them anything. But I do think he felt like he needed to publicly state some of the things that went well, maybe hoping to influence some of the fan perception, but you're not going to do that when you're losing, regardless. Nobody's going to go, oh, wow, we were great on special teams and a run game was good. No one, that's not going to persuade anyone. They're going to just look at the record and go, this isn't good enough. And then the people who are the clickbait artists are going to go, one and done, one and done. It's like they chant it with a pitchfork, one and done, because they want chaos. Chaos equals clicks, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, one thought I did have before we go on to the next topic. Why is there no independent media allowed in the press room during the season? You know, you have some of these independent media people in training camp, and they do ask questions. So I'm talking about the Jets X Factor people and the Badlands people, maybe some others. They are there in training camp. And as bad as the Badlands people are just in general, somebody like a Will Parkinson's disease, he asks really good questions when he's allowed in the pressers. Give him credit where credit's due. And the Jets X Factor people don't seem to ask questions, but like Robbie Sabo gives you good summaries of what's going on in training camp and stuff like that. So how come those guys are not allowed during the season? I would think it'd be better for the Jets to have those people there, because then they could soak up some of the questions. You only get 5, 6, 7 questions, And if Will Parkinson is going to ask good questions that people want to know in a way that's not a trap question and all this stuff, well, that's better for the Jets. And because that's one less bullshit from the mainstream media, bullshit question from the mainstream media. So, I don't know. I think the Jets should really take a look and say, you don't have to deny anybody. You just have extra people there. And if you had 2 independent people there, they would get some of the questions, and that means less questions from, the assholes. Why subject yourself to assholic behavior when you could reduce it? So, I don't know. The Jets, I think, should look into that. All right, next up. Injuries. So we had a bunch of people who are not practicing today. Mason Taylor, Xavier Newman, Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis, Quantez Stiggers, Michael Clements, and Joe Tippmann. They're probably all going to be out. That's called organic tanking, when you take injured people and you just say, hey, you guys are not playing today. And we also signed Raheem Blackshear, running back, to the practice squad. He will probably get an elevation, and so you're probably going to see a running game consisting of Kene Nwangu and Khalil Herbert and Raheem Blackshear. That'll be our running back tandem for the final week. I really doubt they're going to put Breece in the game after he banged his knee. He should have been taken out of that game. As soon as he had that 59-yard run, that should have been curtains for, Hall on the season. Thank you very much. See you next year. Hopefully sign a nice 3-year deal. Davis had a concussion issue. He'll probably be out too. Why risk it for the biscuit? And so, it's going to be interesting. It is the last game at the Buffalo Stadium, the old one, that they've been at for 53 years. They're knocking that sucker down and putting one up right next to it. That's going to be a great stadium, by the way, if you haven't looked at it. So you wonder if they're going to be playing hard just to make sure they win that last game at the old stadium. As opposed to just throwing in the towel and being like, all right, we got to get ready for the playoffs. So that's what's up with the injuries. All right, next up, NFL Roundup, late breaking news. So one of the things making the rounds, which is very interesting to me, is Brian Flores. You may not be aware that Brian Flores' contract is coming up, defensive coordinator, Minnesota Vikings. And so he's scheduled to be a free agent. They're trying to sign him. They want to sign him, but, if I were him, I would not sign anything right now. Now, he, of course, wants to be a head coach. And so if he goes and interviews and gets a head coach, that's where he's going to go. No impact on the Jets. But if he doesn't get any of those jobs, he might be a fit for the Jets opening at defensive coordinator. Why would he be a fit? Well, first of all, he's from New York. He's from Brooklyn. Don't forget, he went to Poly Prep. Some of you were not smart enough to get into Poly Prep. It's for the smarty smarts. I was smart enough to test for it, but it's funny. I intentionally blew the test because I didn't like, they did like a walk around with us to show us the school, and I was like, I don't like this. I like PS207. So I put like B on all the questions. I got a very low score to make sure I didn't get in there. So I could have known Brian Flores. It's possible because I think we're about the same age. Huh. Life. But anyway, it's a very good school for smart people. And that's where he went. But he's a Brooklyn kid. That's what he is. So it'll be a homecoming. I mean, New Jersey's not New York, but it's close enough. For one thing. And then for another thing, he could look at our situation and go, boy, oh boy, if Aaron Glenn is two and through, which is what the media is pushing now, if that does happen, who would be a better candidate to replace him than Brian Flores? Keeping in mind, we're not going to get the offensive mastermind play caller, which we would want, but those people don't come here. Look at our entire history. We've only had one offensive coach since all the way back to Parcells, all into ancient history, and there'd been only one offensive coach, and that was a disaster. It was Adam Gase. So we always have the first timers and the defensive coach. Well, Flores is not a first timer. Remember, he was down in Florida and in Miami, and he did well, actually. And you might say, well, so he might want to say, all right, if I'm the DC there, if Glenn is gone in a year or two, it would only be natural for them to make, that's a path to the head coaching position. You might say, well, wait a minute. I heard he filed a lawsuit. What's going on there? Well, remember, there was a lot of shady business going on when he was the head coach of the Dolphins, and the Dolphins got fined significantly, money and draft picks. People forget. And if you read that whole thing, there was a report put out by the NFL, and if you actually read it, which I did, and I put out a video on it, I forget if it was this iteration of the channel or the previous, but Brian Flores was the only one who came out smelling like a rose. Stephen Ross, shitbird. Chris Greer, shitbird. There's other people in their front office, shitbirds. Tom Brady was involved, shitbird. Sean Payton, shitbird. All these shitbirds, but Brian Flores came out smelling like a rose. He's the only one. He said, no, I'm not tanking. The owner came to him and said, you got to tank these games. We need losses. We need draft pick. He said, I'm not tanking. Go fuck yourself. And then they were having shady boat meetings with Tom Brady on a boat. By the way, never take a meeting on a boat. That's just life advice. And Tom Brady on a boat over here, while he's the coach, trying to get Sean Payton and Tom Brady in there as a twofer when it was the illegal tampering period. You're not supposed to talk to these people yet. And yet they were on a boat talking. And the only one, and then on top of that, then he goes for, he gets fired. He's going for a head coaching position with the Giants. And the day before he's scheduled to go for the interview, Bill Belichick sends him a text thinking he's Brian Daboll. Remember, Coach Brian, they both served under Belichick at one point or another, I believe. And anyway, he sends him a text thinking it's Brian Daboll saying, congrats on, I heard you're the new head coach. Congrats on getting the job. He sends this to Flores. So Flores is like, what the fuck? I haven't even interviewed yet. And people outside the organization who are tied to the organization, Belichick very close to the owners of the Giants, are saying to Daboll, in a mistaken text, we don't know if it was on purpose or what, to throw chaos into the mix. But either way, it looks freaking shady. And guess what? Brian Flores comes out smelling like a rose again. Because even if they wanted to hire Daboll, you can't be letting people know he's getting the job before you finish interviewing all the candidates. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's terrible process and violates the Rooney Rule. The whole purpose of the Rooney Rule is that minorities get at least some interviews. Get some interviews going here. Keeping in mind the league is like 90 to 95% black, and the coaching ranks do not reflect that. So something going on weird there, whether you like the Rooney Rule or not. Still, it's a violation of it. It is in place. And it's also an employment case. So Flores filed a lawsuit. It's like, this is ridiculous. I don't even get an interview and they're already saying Daboll's the coach. What the hell? So he did nothing wrong in those things, the way I see it. If those things happened to you, you would file a lawsuit too. But everybody wants to scream DEI, and all this. No. Flores was right in all these cases. And he was also right about Tua. Another thing they say is, well, how's he going to get along with the quarterback? He couldn't get along with Tua. But A, he was right about Tua, now we see. And B, he admitted he was wrong in how he handled it, which is true. So that's the one thing you could say accurately, negatively about Flores. He didn't handle the Tua thing right. And he admitted that. And he said he's sorry about that and he's going to do better in the future. And what else do you want? The guy's, all right, he made a mistake. He was a first-time head coach. He screwed that up in how he handled it. But he was right in judging that Tua shouldn't be the QB. And so to me, those are some factors where we could end up with Brian Flores as the DC, and he would wind up back in the AFC East and stuff like that. So where he got his start, he started with the Patriots. So I don't know. It seems like it's a good option, and it seems like we could actually have a chance. There's a path for it to happen. That would be very, very interesting indeed. Now, the other name that came up in this was Wink Martindale. You heard me talking about Wink Martindale first, though I never get any fucking credit. Then all of a sudden you see Country Club Connor coming out with tweets about Wink Martindale after I started speculating about it, since he's apparently getting fired from Michigan with the new Michigan coach bringing in his own people. So it just goes to show you that the mainstream media watches old Frankie and they steal my stuff, and that's okay. They don't give me any credit because not enough people are subscribed. So if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little subscribe button. I give you information first and foremost that you're not going to hear anywhere else. And if I had more subscribers, they might give me some respect. But if we just have 1,000, they're going to be like, fuck that guy. He's small potatoes. Which is a little annoying, but nonetheless, the idea of Wink Martindale coming in and being the coach, that would be something. Now, those two guys run totally different off defenses than we've seen here over the solid era of football here, and then into Glenn Wilkes. So it would be totally different philosophically and personnel-wise. It would be interesting to see if Aaron Glenn would go along with that, with either of those guys. And then how we shape the roster then pertains to the type of defense. They both run 3-4 amoeba type D, which I prefer. In the modern day of football, it's my contention that you have to try to disguise and trick quarterbacks. There's too much tape out there. The ubiquity of tape in the modern day means if you just run simple stuff, you need to have great players at every single position who can just overwhelm their matchups. Otherwise, you're screwed. To me, you want a defense that takes a lot of chances, does a lot of disguise, does a lot of things to confuse the quarterback. And sometimes you get burned with that. But other times, you do confuse them, and then you get a lot of turnovers. So there you go. Country Club. Connor Hughes stealing from FSPN, confirmed. And I said this on Twitter as well as in a post here on YouTube. Now we got Stephon Diggs has domestic violence charges. We got Christian Barmore also with domestic violence charges. These are allegations at the moment, but could have an effect on the playoffs for the Patriots. And so much for the culture that Mike Vrabel was bringing to the Patriots. Now you got two guys, allegedly, apparently, we don't know. Could be people just making stuff up. But if not, then you got two people with violent episodes. Not good. But I thought Mike Vrabel and the culture but they're winning, right? So whatever comes out of this, you could, if you objectively looked at it, you'd say, well, Mike Vrabel's a terrible culture builder. He had two people hitting people and domestic violence and all this, if it gets proven out. And then, but in the world of sports, that's not going to be the conversation. The conversation is going to be, but he wins, so that'll just get swept under the rug, which is kind of unfortunate. And this all, of course, goes back, at least with Stephon Diggs, to the pink substance. I keep mentioning this on X. That's another reason you should follow me on X. Excellent content by old Frankie there at Flatbush Frankie on X. You should follow me there. Get good content. Why not? But if you remember the boat incident, another boat incident, again, boats equal bad. Do not get on a boat under any circumstance. But he had pink substances. He had women, scantily clad women, well, bikinis, on the boat and all and whatnot, and calling him daddy and this and that. And he had a pink substance and nobody knows what it was. And, it's probably cocaine, but we don't really know. Certainly some sort of something. And now you see Diggs with, all of his moodiness. And remember, he got angry at Josh Allen, was yelling and screaming at him on the sidelines. And then now with the Patriots, he's yelling and screaming encouragement because they're doing good and they're throwing him the ball. And he's just constantly yelling and screaming. And you have to wonder about this pink substance. And perhaps he's taking this substance, perhaps, allegedly, just speculation here. We don't know, during the games. And so we don't know, but he's an awfully moody gentleman, and now he's got domestic violence charges. So hopefully nothing comes of it. Hopefully he didn't do it. I didn't do nothing. So we'll have to see. Now, the other thing is that college football playoff resumes tonight. Yeah, Wednesday, December 31st. We get Miami and Ohio State. So lots of players to watch, including defensive end Ruben Bain of Miami, the quarterback of Miami, Carson Beck. Where can he fit into the draft? 6th, 7th round, UDFA, something like that. Akeem Mesidor is another defensive end to watch for Miami. He's a guy who could be a day 2 pick, and seems to do have a repertoire of moves for Wanga on their offensive line as well. They also have an exciting freshman, not good for the draft, obviously, Malachi Tony. He's fun to watch, but he's not for the draft yet. Then on Ohio State, you have the whole team. Pretty much. Pretty much. And some of their guys are not even ready for the draft. Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, superstars in college football, but they're not coming in the draft, too young. So you got basically the whole defense. You got at least 4 picks, first-round picks on that defense. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, and McDonald, the defensive lineman, could have a 5th one of the other defensive linemen. But lots and lots of people to keep an eye on. Just the whole team on Ohio State is just stacked. So lots of scouting to do tonight, so that'll be fun, and then more tomorrow. And last but not least, media. Some last piece about the media. So Zach Rosenblather of The Athletic couldn't understand why people wanted Mike McCarthy as a head coach for any team that has an opening. He was like, well, he only got 1 Super Bowl win with Aaron Rodgers. Isn't that disappointing? And then he, playoff disappointments with Dallas. And I had to school him. So again, another good reason to follow me on X and support me on X. If you see these posts I make schooling these fucking people and dunking on them, you should like it. More likes we get shows the media that they're incorrect when they are. And one thing I do like to do is correct them. So he has a lifetime winning percentage of .583. He's been to the playoffs 12 out of 18 years, which is 67% of the time, which means if you hire him for 3 years, you're in the playoffs for 2. He has 1 Super Bowl win, and he's a play-calling head coach, which is what you want because that's the one coach on your staff that cannot be poached. He's the unpoachable coach. And the play caller and play designer is the most important coach on the whole staff, provided that you have a quarterback that you can work with and enough blocking. If you have a decent, personnel, then it's about that play calling coach. He makes the most difference out of anybody. And so you want that person ideally to be the head coach because then that guy can't be poached if it works. Now, just because a guy's offense and plays calls, that does not mean it's automatically going to work. Look at Adam Gase. Matt Nagy's tenure with the Bears didn't go well, things like that. But if it does work, then you've got continuity going forward. You don't have to worry about your play caller getting poached by another team, which they will. Like Tanner Engstrom, if we have great success next year and the next year, probably needs 2 years to prove himself out. Even though he's very young, he gone. He out of here. He going to be a head coach real quick. So that's why Mike McCarthy is an attractive candidate. Some people don't like these quote-unquote retreads, but Mike McCarthy, for example, has had tons of success. So, if you want success, maybe hire him. I don't know. And apparently the Jets have something against Mike McCarthy. That's been some of the reporting, that the Jet brass does not like McCarthy for some reason. Stupid. But anyways, the Rosenblather schooling goes on. All right, so that'll do it for this edition of the Frankie from Flatbush Show. I am Frankie from Flatbush. If you enjoyed the show, if you think what I'm doing brings a differentiation from some of the other Jet content creators here on YouTube, I would appreciate it if you could at least give a thumbs up down below. Perhaps click the subscribe button. It is free. And if you'd like to support financially, we have all different kinds of tiers from $2 to $5 to $10 a month in the inner circle, the inner triangle, the inner square, Click the join button down below, and I will see you next time.